vetoed that in the meeting. Kenya apparently listened to the pod. No, I'm pumped. They're gonna bid to host 2025 Worlds, according to an article in the BBC. They have put in the bid. Athletics Kenya president Jackson Tue, it says that they have submitted a bid. He said to BBC Sport Africa, "We feel like Kenya is the spiritual home of athletics." Now, you and I talked about this before, prior to that Nairobi Diamond League, or sorry, Continental Tour meet. And one of the interesting side effects was just the altitude and how fast it would make sprints. And that came to fruition this year as well, too. We talked about how exciting it would be to have it in a place that cares about track as much as Kenya. It appears that Tokyo is also going to bid, which would make sense because they have the Olympic Stadium already there. So in the same way that London hosted in 2012 and then hosted World Championships, Beijing hosted in 2008 and then hosted a World Championships. Rio did not do that, but it would make sense for Tokyo to do it. But what do you think about the spiritual home, as it's being called, Kenya bidding to host the 2025 Worlds? You still on board?
Yeah, I just like the phrase spiritual home.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out what is my spiritual home. Like, is it a certain like fast
I
food
think
joint
it's in
that I go to way
Philadelphia.
too often for my own liking? Like,
It's a Raising
this
Cane's
drive-through is
in
my spiritual
Philadelphia.
home. Getting a cheesesteak. No, actually, no, I would say actually no. My spiritual home is in Austin. It is a cheesesteak place called Way South Philly. It's like the only
Mhm.
good cheesesteak place in Austin, Texas. And I call that my spiritual home. I
Mhm.
like check this out. Should I tell you how much it's my spiritual home? I'm gonna show you behind the scenes. It
Mhm.
used to be a food truck that was near my old apartment, and then they moved like 5 miles away, so I just have to drive there now. But I talked to the guy, and he gave me there
Yeah, I
his
see
food
it.
truck sign. Boom,
Your spiritual home. It's the tagline says the
spiritual home.
spiritual home of Gordon Mack. I mean, we talked about how great this was before and how interesting of an opportunity it could be. So now that it's official, what do you think? What should and what will World Athletics do? Do you think?
I think they're gonna pick Tokyo, um, but I think this isn't the sign that Kenya. I think it's a sign that Kenya will host before 2030. That's what I think. I
Okay,
think
just won't be at
it
25.
just may not be 2025 because I think Tokyo is going to be hard to beat because Tokyo's be like, we can do crazy things, and we
Mhm.
can draw a lot of people. Kenya can draw people too, but um, we're going to be like Qatar, but with people in the stadium. So imagine that atmosphere, but with
I
people,
literally
with the
can't
whole like
imagine that.
high tech and all that stuff. So
Well,
what are the order? So we have Eugene 2022,
uh-huh.
2023 is where's that? Belgrade,
Budapest
Budapest,
in Hungary,
Budapest, and then
2024 Paris, the Olympics,
Paris.
25 TBD, 26 nothing unless Subco returns my emails about having a world championship every year that there's not an Olympics because it's cool. Then 27 is TBD and then 28 is LA. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm guessing Paris would probably be a spot to bid as well too after they host the Olympics. But yeah, 25 and 27, maybe a combo deal. We've seen that before. Here's the thing though. Um, do you think they're more likely to give it to Tokyo because Tokyo didn't have fans for the Olympics? So you never got that true atmosphere, and this would give them a true atmosphere to use that stadium.
I don't think they care about all the like. I don't think they care about the phrase "spiritual home" for Kenya. I don't think they care about weird
Mhm.
situations here and there. I think they care about one thing and one thing only: who can spend the most money, pay out, like invest the most in it. Like
Yeah.
they're going to always choose the venue that is willing to go all in and not half-ass it, right? I think that's why Eugene got it because they kind of were like, hey, we may have a smaller stadium, but we're going to go all in. We're going to
Yeah.
rebuild the freaking thing. We're going to tear it down and rebuild it. We're going to like the only thing that matters here is track and field. We're not going to be competing against
Yeah.
a football game or whatever or a
Yeah.
soccer match. We're going all in, and so I think that's what they want.
Yeah.
They want the venues, the cities to go all in on their sport.
Yeah. That I like that. That's some cold hard truth. I think you're accurate on that because they're like, "Hey, Eugene, how bad do you want it?" And they're like, "Are you willing to tear down 100 years of history?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll do that. We just want these world championships." And they did it. They actually, I don't think they thought they would do it, but then they actually did it. And they're like, "Oh well, all right then. You're actually going to do this." That makes it tough. I was at Doha. I mean, you've been at these global championship meets. There's a lot that you're right goes into them beyond just who's in the stands and out of the stands full. I wish that was a higher priority though. And I know Tokyo would do a great job and Tokyo would have awesome fans. It would not be the same as Doha. But I think as you talked about before, putting it in Africa or putting it in the Caribbean, these places where they have such great representation for the sport would just create an amazing atmosphere. I know from like the bureaucratic side of things, they'll people will always come up with hurdles that you have to overcome, but just putting it in a place where it means so much would be
Where it
really good.
matters, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Doha got it because of money, right? It's
Well,
yeah,
they all get it because of them. Yeah, all of it's money. But like, why does Eugene host stuff? Because it matters there, right? And then they
yeah,
eventually they have the infrastructure now to do it. But part of the selling point now is they have the enthusiasm, and now they have the enthusiasm matched with the infrastructure to make it go off. But like
yeah,
the city of Eugene hosting, like if you just think of it in from the abstract, hosting all these Olympic trials and world championships, and there's one Diamond League meet in the United States, and it's in Eugene, Oregon, a city of 160,000 people. Like on its face, it seems crazy, but then now it makes sense. So from that perspective, it's not absurd that some of these other places globally should have a chance to host it too because they can bring that same level of enthusiasm. Now, is all are the other parts in line to make it go off? Well, that will take a little bit more time probably and a little more structure. But that's the same way I feel about. Like I love that it's in Eugene. I think it's cool when you go to a meet and everybody in the town cares about it. And likewise for World Championships versus Doha, where most of the people had no idea what was going on. I mean, it's
they're
true.
like,
I was there. I mean,
"Oh,
it's
they're
like
running
it
the."
does. I mean, I mean, they're literally bussing people in and letting them in for it's just like no tickets tonight. All right, like nobody knew what was going on there the entire time. World Championships were there. Were there great performances, of course, but I mean, the most
Do you
exciting
think
moments outside of Barshim jumping, the most exciting moments were Kenyans and Ethiopians competing in distance running because there were a lot of expats there who lived in Qatar and were nuts about track and field, and they made the atmosphere in the stadium.
do you think there's gonna be any similarities in the I mean, maybe not, in the lack of enthusiasm about the event when Qatar hosts the World Cup. Now I know the World Cup soccer is 3,000 times bigger than track, and I get that.
Yeah,
But Qatar's also a hard country to get to. Like,
yeah.
do you think the Qatar World Cup is gonna have sold out stadiums, or do you think there's gonna be a lot of world championship vibe stadiums?
Yeah, I think they were going to extreme lengths to avoid the optics that they had in the beginning of the track meet. I would think that they would have learned from that and they'll just sold out. Like you're talking about selling tickets, that's tough. Will there be butts and seats so it looks like a sellout? Yes, I think because they were embarrassed after it was the women's
Yeah.
100. Gordon, I can't explain to you how few people are in the stadium for the women's hunt. Like you've been to high school track meets. Like you raced in high school track meets with more people in the stands than
Yeah.
that like some of those sessions in Doha. Like and
Basically, it
was
felt
it
like a
wasn't one of those
COVID, right? COVID protocols, right? It felt like a
100%. And that's
pandemic race.
yeah. Yeah, when everybody was making those jokes before about like, oh, track's all right about they'll be fine. They have no crowds anyway. Like there was I mean, It was insane. It was actually insane. And it's one of those things you're thinking, okay, is it just the case of like the stadium is super big, so it looks like there's not that many people? No, man. Like I could literally go and count by section how many people were in each section, and do it in a matter of minutes. Right? Like I didn't need a whole bunch of like I didn't need to like squint and be like, is that three people or is that four? That's how sparsely populated that stadium was. Soccer's bigger, you're right, and I think they learned from it, and it was an embarrassment, so they'll fix it. But I don't know. Like, I guess track is running out of places to host it that would want to host it, that would be as disinterested in it as Qatar was. So that gives me hope. Like the choice, if their choices are like for the next few years, like Tokyo, somewhere in Europe, and Kenya, like all those are going to be great. All those are going to be great.
Yeah.
That's what makes me feel good.
Yeah, and as much as I did criticize World Athletics, like all that matters is the money. I do think there may be a situation now that they experienced Qatar and they went for the money in Qatar. They're gonna
Yeah.
they're gonna basically, all right, let's they're it may not be like if Qatar is bidding against Tokyo and Tokyo is offering a little bit less, I think they might go to Tokyo because they just realize like, hey, we should take the haircut because we just don't want that atmosphere again.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, how many people showed up to U20s in Kenya to World Juniors?
That's a good question. Well, and that's a
Like, wonder
sign
what
that
the
I think it's coming too. Because remember, Eugene did U14 as a
yeah,
test case, and then they give them the bigger stuff later on. I mean, I remember all the stories about World Cross in Kenya. Now that's different. That was in Mombasa, and how crazy the atmosphere was for that. But I think a lot of people will go because they'll want to go to Kenya too.
yeah,
Like these track and field tourists, people who like to go see different stadiums in different parts of the world. They'll be like I met people who in the airport going from the US to Doha who they would tell me, "Oh, I've been to every world championship since the 90s or the 80s." Like there's people who want, and I'm sure some people that enthusiasm waned when it was in Qatar. I don't think anybody would like, avoid going to Kenya. I think that would be a total
yeah,
bucket
yeah,
list item. And likewise, if it was in the Caribbean, where it would be for the United States even more accessible
dude.
to be able to get to.
Caribbean, that's where you got to have it.
Yeah,
We need a Caribbean World Championships at least every 4 years. Like, it is too
I
good.
agree.
You need to rotate between Jamaica, Bahamas, you know,
Yeah, I'm
all
there,
those
man.
places. Yeah.
I think that would be I haven't even been there, and I'm already excited about it. I think it'd be super cool. All right, so let's leave it there. We'll do the Boston Marathon preview on Friday. We'll do the Boston Marathon preview on Friday, and then next week Boston is on Monday, so we'll have a live reaction show hopefully on Monday. Right after that, still working on landing a co-host there since you were going to be on the scene. I guess we'll call you. Is that the plan?
Yeah, you can call me. Yeah,
Okay,
you can call me
good.
in.
Reporting live from Boston. Correspondent Gordon Mack. All right. Thank you to everybody tuning in live or listening to podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Thank you to Travis for producing. Thank you to Lon for producing. We'll talk to you guys on Friday.
Like and subscribe.